Hey everybody, thank you very much and welcome to our last service workshop of 2025. And a huge thank you to the University of the Western Cape for agreeing to do this service workshop for the network. We really appreciate it. We know it's a busy time of year for everybody, but a huge thank you to having this as well as to everybody for attending. So today's workshop is going to be on the Student Success Thermometer, a self-reflective tool for students' engagement and agency. So I'm going to hand it over to UWC. I think, Monique, you're up first, if that's right with the welcome. Great.
Yes, I am. Prof. De Wetskitte, are you able to share on your end? Thank you, Ashton, for sending the...
let me just, yes, he did.
The program.
Yeah.
Is in the chat.
But, oh, gosh, I hope I can do that because he's asked me a lot of questions, Ashton.
Ashton, if you could kindly reshare the program for those who joined later.
Sure.
Because I know that you added it already to the chat. Because then I can go ahead with my introduction while Prof. Skitter is busy with the presentation there and trying to share.
Okay, I've shared the program in the chat for everybody.
Okay, thank you very much. Good morning. My name is Monique Manuel, and I'm the manager of the Office for Academic Skills in the Center for Student Support Services at the University of the Western Cape. I want to extend a warm welcome to everyone who are present here today. So 2 promises that we guarantee you during the session is that, firstly, you are going to learn at least one thing that you didn't already know. And secondly, please know that this workshop is going to be interactive and your participation is required during the breakout rooms. Like Ashton has mentioned, the presentation is titled A Self-Reflective Tool for Student Engagement and Agency. So moreover, the presenter, Prof. Skitter, is currently engaged in employment as a researcher at the Center for Student Support Services at the University of the Western Cape. We developed the Student Success Thermometer, an innovative early warning self-assessment tool for students. Prof. Skitter holds a Master's of Arts degree from Stellenbosch University and a Doctor of Philosophy in Sociology from the University of Pretoria. His extensive professional background includes 18 years of service with the Human Science Research Council as Chief Researcher, where his research focused on intergroup studies, community development theory and practice, as well as quantitative and qualitative research methodologies. Prof. Skitter has recently presented at the 2nd International Conference on Education and Research hosted by the University Institute of Lisbon in Portugal. Together with the Office for Academic Skills at the Center for Student Support Services, Prof. Skitter has published a paper titled Integrating the Hidden Curriculum into an edu-socio model for student success. Before I hand over to Prof. Skitter, who will be presenting today, I would like to discuss the program for the day that Ashton has just added or uploaded in the chat for you. Please note that after the presentation, we'll share a short clip of video testimonial of a student's experience in relation to the Student Success Thermometer. Thereafter, Zoe Bach, a master's student in social work at the University of the Western Cape and a first-year transitioning officer in the Siyaphumelela First-Year Experience Program, who has been selected as the 2026 Siyaphumelela ATD Dream Scholar, will then be doing her segment, and then we'll move into a 15-minute body break. Upon our return, we will then go directly into our breakout rooms. But before we do that, we will also be just discussing or showcasing the questions. And please be sure to select your speakers to give feedback. I think, yes, there's actually enough time, a lot of time in the breakout rooms for discussions. And then we'll then conclude at the end. And we hope there'll be enough time for further engagements at the end of the presentation. So Prof. Skitter will go ahead now, and he will start with his presentation. And if there's any questions that you do have, please add it to the chat. Our UWC colleagues are here. We'll try our best to answer your questions, and we'll also give just some time at the end for Prof. De Wet if there's any questions that he would like to answer. Please note that the breakout rooms will be facilitated by our UWC colleagues. So you'll have someone there if you have any questions. So Prof, you can go ahead and share.
Thank you, Monique. Ashton, can everybody see my screen? Is that?
Yes. Yes, we can see it. Thank you.
So I can go. Thank you very much for the introduction. And I have to start with my part of it. Thank you for the opportunity to share some views with colleagues that share the same interest. And it's such an amazing event in the sense that we're all on the same page when it comes to students and student education and so forth. So thank you for this opportunity. I was asked to talk about the Student Success Thermometer, what we call a self-reflective tool for student engagement and agency. And this instrument it's got a long history with UWC, and it took some time to do the development of it. And being a researcher for many years, more than 20 years, with the Human Sciences Research Council, I was pretty much aware of the fact that you cannot design an instrument if you don't have a theory behind it. Therefore, I had to really dig deep, indulge myself into the research problems that we experience, and start to philosophize and think about what is the problem with students. And then I came across a lot of discussions with people and colleagues where we end up with a long debate saying, yes, you know, a student is a student is a student. And that's very true. You cannot default it. But also during the same debates, it's often said that, yes, but student is not a student, is not a student. That's also true. And it's between these two extremes that the question arises, what is the reality? There are some overarching universal elements in being a student. I mean, you have to study, you have to pay attention, you have to attend classes, etc., etc. But there is an individual behind every student number. And that's what makes me tick, this overlap. The second question is the same about campuses. When you talk about university campuses, and if you traveled around the world and visited university campuses, a campus is a campus is a campus. You go there, you see the buildings, you see the faculties, you attend classes, you attend conferences. But what is also true, a campus is not a campus, is not a campus. And again, we are asking, what makes this so special? If you are on UWC campus, you pretty much know you're not on the campus of Rhodes University. And if you are on UCT campus, you pretty much know you're not on campus in Oxford. So therefore, this overlap between the environment and the individual student became the quest of my research. And that took me to this element of search for this hidden curriculum. What makes a successful student? And I've been digging deep on this. And I had to go to definitions of success and students and so forth and so forth. But the point is, if we talk not specific discipline, I'm not talking science, I'm not talking sociology, I'm not talking psychology or social work, I'm not talking physics, I'm talking what makes a good physics student. There should be that overlap that also makes a good arts student. And it is this hidden curriculum that really triggered my mind. And it had to take me back to, I had to go back to the issue about the meaning of student success. And when we look into that, you'll find that university status depends on student success and usually linked to the so-called throughput rate. Universities with high standing usually have a high throughput or good or acceptable throughput rate. But then we have the marketing people and the donors to universities, and they are more interested in what happened to your alumni. These people that studied there, what has happened in their life, in their lifespan after university life. And then we have me and us and you around the table today. And then we have teaching and development and curriculum specialists. And for them, it is this holistic development, this preparing a student for the work of the life, the work of life, a world of life and work after university training. And we all bring this holistic thing, which triggers a lot of issues with me, and that we could talk afterwards about this so-called amorph, undefinable, undefendable thing called holistic development, because you cannot falsify it. It seems to be that. Therefore, ladies and gentlemen, there seems to be a lot of agreement with what means a student. And the interesting thing is that a student is a student once he's registered, got a number. A student is decided upon by the admin department. Then you're a student. And then the education departments or the teaching and learning environment takes over, the faculties takes over. And Finn and Rock had a definition that we could work with. A successful progression towards graduation within the prescribed time frame. So that is student success. Student success can be a lot of things. It could be from holistic to individual adaptation and so forth and so forth. But the point is, when you look at it through the eyes from a student on campus, and I did the research for that, and I asked them, when do you think you will be successful as a student? And the answer is very simple. You look at the eyes through the student, from the student, when I'm able to graduate. So this search was about this whole thing. The research question was, what makes a successful university student? And we had to build that into the Student Success Thermometer. And if you have a good research question, the validity would also be sort of enhanced or confirmed when you have a counter research problem that leads you to the same issue. And that is, a successful student is one that graduates. What makes this overlap possible? What's the difference? I said a campus is a campus is a campus. Yes, but all campuses have their own pedagogical philosophy and practices, curriculum arrangements, historical background, campus social dynamics, and so forth, the layout, the type of the buildings, the architecture. These things seems to play into what Tinto called the DNA of any university. So if we talk about hidden curriculum, we have to zoom into this environment also. What is it that makes a successful student? And if you go to Rousseau and Frick and Malek, you could see that this, where teaching and learning specialists usually refer to hidden curriculum as sort of within the environment of the teaching environment, the classroom setting, etc. When we designed the Student Success Thermometer, we stretched it to beyond the formal classroom environment. it seems to be it deals with these development phases of individuals, of humans, moving from puberty to early adulthood. There's a lot of development tasks that should be completed to be a successful individual on a university campus. So all acceptable universities have this criteria. Your intellectual standard is filtered by the admin department. Did you get the required matric results? If not, you won't be allowed. If you did, you get the green light and you go to the faculty. So in theory, all students should be able to pass, in theory. But we have these two environments. It's a human environment and it's the campus environment, and the overlaps, that hidden environment must be something serious, because I have a thumbs up and I'd like to challenge everybody around the table on this. It would probably be a nice research project that I would like to do before I lay my head down. And that is, I think, that's my thumbs up, not based on real facts. I think 70% of the failures at university fail not because they failed the academic curriculum, primarily. Basically, they failed the academic curriculum. But that's not the reason for the failure of the academic curriculum. I think 70% fails because they failed the hidden curriculum. And probably about 20 to 30% fail the academic curriculum because they're in the wrong direction. They don't have the ability to pass this subject, etc., etc. And this quest made me tick. We're talking about, in this case, of first and second tier environment of 95% of students that need interventions other than personal therapeutic environment. So we designed an instrument called a self-talk, self-assessment instrument that fosters agency with a focus on academic success. You hear the word academic success, and able to reach the critical mass, the 95% of the students, everybody on campus possible. This is what it was all about. And what we did is we had a research design, and I won't take too much of your time with this part of the presentation, but what we used the dendrogram technique to have an inductive argument, inductive research design. We're looking at the symptoms of student success. And it seems to be, when we looked into the literature, and I did a huge literature study, I dissected, I think it was 28 of these types of instruments that's on the internet available. What is it that they look at? And it seems to be successful academic skills are reflected in academic communication skills and in academic study skills and thinking skills, leading self abilities, academic planning for your studies, and resources. These 6 domains were on the first level, and each of them were linked to some of these elements. For academia to have good communication on a university in South Africa, in Oxford, in Zululand, in Nigeria, in Kenya, any place in the world, you must have the skills for academic reading. It's not like reading a novel. You must have the skills for academic writing. It's not writing an SMS text. Speaking skills, which means you must be able to express your views and not end every sentence with saying, what I actually mean is. Listening skills, listening to connect the dots, and digital skills. If you don't have the ability to put it on a Word file, document, or whatever technology they use to submit your assignment for evaluation, if you have problems with this communication environment of the university, you will find it difficult to follow. And that comes to each of these 6 domains with all of these symptoms at the lowest levels. And that is, and ended up to be, the edu-socio student success model. It has these 6 domains with 22 elements linked to these domains. And the instrument gives a student, reflects an assessment on each of them with assistance. So if they click on one of them, and I'll show you just a slide on that, they get some form of assistance also. If you have problems with academic reading, do the following and visit these websites or whatever it may be. That will help you to get your act together. Or self-evaluation, not a psychological test. The issue on university campuses all over the world nowadays is the student voice. The student voice is everything. When students come together and they raise their voice and the way they see things should happen. This is about student self-talk. When I stand in front of the mirror, who am I? Where am I this very pretty moment? And what can I do to it? And this is the hidden curriculum on the top left there, being uncovered. And that is why I think I said in the last conference in Portugal, wherever it was, that this is all about unhiding the hidden curriculum. We could go into too much detail. It's just as null and void as going into little detail. So we had to strike a balance. We could extend these criteria and elements in each of these 6 domains. You could even extend the domains. But the problem is we run the risk of moving into areas that's only theory and doesn't touch the sweet spot with practice. So, ladies and gentlemen, the Student Success Thermometer was this instrument that we developed, and we use a slider. And because of the time, that the limited time that's available for students, we were restricted to 3 liquid statements on each of the 22 domains. So we have 66 statements. And these statements are self-evaluations. And we have behind that an 8-point scale. Why an 8-point scale? Because it doesn't have a middle value. Students are very clever. If I want to cop out of don't make a statement, I put it right in the middle. We don't have a middle value. So you have to move that slider. And this is the typical result they would get. They would get this interpretation, your academic experience is above average or whatever it may be. And they would see each graph. And when you click on a graph, and when you go to the second semester, you get a second graph to see is there progress. The second semester is the one in color, and the previous one is the shaded one. So we see a regress in this case of a regress in communication skills of this particular student. We see increased thinking skills there. We see an increased resource management there and planning for your studies and so forth. There was some problem there, and there's a problem here. And when you look at the Siyaphumelela results that we've had on our campus, we did some research and isolated the Siyaphumelela results. I'm going to share that with you today. Siyaphumelela students, there were 304 of them that participated in the Student Success Thermometer. And I could tell you the average of them was 62.6. It's a little bit higher than the average of the typical University Western Cape student. I think the average was 62.3 for the average of the university student. So we have a little bit higher average here. But we could see, and when you interpret this, when we look at this later in the groups today, it is that 50 is the cutting line between above average and below average. 75 is excellent, good, good. This is above average only. This is hitting excellence. This is poor, below average, below 25, sorry. This is below average. Below 25 means you are in serious trouble. This is the average of our Siyaphumelela students. And it gives us a lot of information. If you go to this 63.6 academic communication, we could see where they got a problem. They've got a problem with academic reading and listening skills. They seem to be well on the way with speaking and writing, sort of, above average, well above average. But we've got a problem here. And we probably have some form of a problem here that needs some attention. When you go to the academic, the learning skills, the styles, you're talking about, oops, we got a problem with memory. And they don't have a specific learning style that works for them. Study method, they're not sorted out yet. When you go to critical thinking, oops, we think we're creative thinking, yes, but it seems to be we accept information for what it is. When you go to leading self, we've got a problem. Self-esteem. Somehow or other how, when students move among other people in the classes around, they've got a problem. And you could see that in that self-esteem is also reflected in academic, not reflected in academic speaking, but it seems to be they don't have the self-esteem to stand up in class and say and ask the questions needed to be asked. And then conflict resolution. And when it goes to planning for our studies, we're in trouble. It's below average. Financial management skills. And when we talk about financial management, we talk about financial management to support my studies. That's important. We all have financial problems. The problem is, one of the statements say, my financial situation puts stress on my academic studies. I have enough financial support to take me to the end of the year or to graduate, whatever it was. So it seems to be there should be intervention in these two areas, serious intervention in these two areas for our Siyaphumelela students. And the last domain, academic resource management. All campuses have resources. And like a lot of students, that's my experience, they're not aware. Though our campuses are inundated with resources, and there's a plethora of resources, they're not aware of it. So, ladies and gentlemen, at the end, we have this final slide of this is that when we do these composite reports of high performance modules of Siyaphumelela students, we subtract their scores, the 22 11s from 100, to say in priority, where are the problems? And you could see here, this is about this thing of, this is, where is it? Financial management was a problem. Time management. This is study for your future. We're talking about leading self as the green ones. These are the green ones. It's all about leading self. We see a sort of a cohort there that needs serious intervention. Then it goes down to about here for the next group. And then there's the next group. It seems to be, ladies and gentlemen, student community inclusion, either we do enough or maybe we do too much. It's not an issue. They feel very much included. But they have a self-esteem problem. They have a problem with personal relationships. When I ask students, when they enter the gate with a questionnaire research, enter the gates of the university, what comes to mind first? What comes to your mind? What do you think of? There are two things that pops up there. You're on your own. I'm lonely. Nobody helps you. That's the underlying stories. That's the contents of the hidden curriculum we are talking about. Therefore, ladies and gentlemen, the Student Success Thermometer is this self-assessment that helps us to take us further into this environment of the students. I'm going to show you a video now, and then Monique will take over with Zoe on one of the testimonies, and the video doesn't work. Monique, so it seems to be, it's going to be.
That's okay. We are ready on our side to show the video.
Great stuff. Great stuff. Thanks.
Elias, are you able to?
I must stop sharing. Is that right?
Let me share.
Am I to stop sharing? You're going to stop it. All right.
Sorry, you just need to share with audio. You haven't shared with audio.
Phone.
In the share settings.
In the share settings, I have to share with audio.
No, Elias needs to.
Oh, it's not me.
Sorry. Okay. There.
Have you got? Otherwise, I can go.
Okay.
I can try.
Right. Should be fine.
You are having success. Good stuff. Excellent.
Absolutely. I think after I used it, I was able to compare my progress from first semester to second semester in terms of like the way I think. So the questions are just structured in a way where I can see whether I'm actually elevating in terms of like my critical thinking skills, my reading skills, whether I'm reading the right things or not. Because after I did the questionnaire, there was a section that told me that, oh, like don't rely too much on things that speak just about that are just on the internet. Don't just believe everything. And that was from just answering that poll. So I think it's definitely guiding me in that sense, which will definitely help me improve my academics. Right, compared to last semester, I would put myself at like a 7 out of 10, and this semester would be an 8 out of 10. I think, which is good, because last semester I think my time management wasn't so great. But after I used it, like I realized there were also like some suggestions to say, oh, this is how you can manage your time. Atine also introduced using my calendar, to me, and that also helped. So yeah, I think in that sense, it enabled me to progress, and I'm also able to balance my academics and also extracurricular activities, which is something that I didn't do last year, right? So now I'm able to do the things that I love and academics and excel at both. So that's progress for me. But I was still in the 70s range, but being able to track with the Student Success Thermometer allowed me to see where my weaknesses are. Like I improved on time management, and that was something that I lacked in the previous semester. So I think in that sense, I definitely improved. For the most part, being able to do things that I love and balancing academics, right? I think for the most part, throughout my high school life, I was a person who used to balance both. Then first year, I just dropped everything and I was just focused on academics. But this year now, I'm able to like also do things that I love while balancing academics, and those academics are also improving. So I think I'm not at the top yet, but being able to manage my time that well again, I think that's progress for me. And that's something that the Student Success Thermometer also allowed me to, well, prompted me to do. Yeah, made me, well, it empowered me mostly. I rely less on, just constantly relying on Atini for progress. It allowed me to be independent as well and just continue working independently and improving and seeing that progress on my own. So Atini is just literally there to listen to my feedback and say, okay, you're doing well. This is the progress that you're making. So it shows that the tool itself is effective because it's allowing me to be independent. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. Next, we'll have Zoe doing her segment. So Zoe, if you would like to unmute yourself, and if there's anything that you need to share on your end, please do so.
Good morning, everybody. I just would like to, can everybody see me and hear me?
We can hear you, but not see you.
I think it's just taking some time. My camera is on. Should. Oh, so it's showing like a. I'm not sure why this camera is not okay. I don't open my camera. Should I maybe rejoin, or is there a way that I can fix?
Ooh. And it seems like your connection isn't that stable. You're a bit choppy in talking.
Yeah.
Ashton, to give Zoe some time, I was thinking now we can go into the break now until 11.
Yeah.
And then Zoe can get things fixed on her end, and then we can reconvene at 11 o'clock, where Zoe will then share, and then we'll go ahead in the breakout rooms. Do you think that can work?
Yes, I think that can work if that's okay with everybody, because we are due for a comfort break now. So if that's if that's okay with everybody, we'll take a break now and then we'll come back at 11 o'clock.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thanks very much. And we'll just try and troubleshoot Zoe in the process. Thanks. To introduce Zoe to everybody. So Zoe is a University of the Western Cape student. She's a master's student in social work. And she was nominated by UWC earlier this year to be a Siyaphumelela scholar and was one of the 5 2025 Siyaphumelela scholars. So she's attended the Siyaphumelela conference where she presented her I Am poem, and then also she attended the Poetry Africa Festival in October this year, hosted by UKZN, and again participated in a series of outreach programs as well as presenting her I Am poem in a dedicated session. And I'm also pleased to announce that Zoe was also selected to be our 2026 Siyaphumelela Achieving the Dream Scholar. So she'll be attending the Achieving the Dream Conference, which is taking place in Portland, Oregon in March next year. And then she'll have the opportunity to interact with the other Dream scholars in America and present her poem to, it'll be around over 2,000 delegates at the Dream conference. So with that, I'm going to hand over to Zoe. Zoe is still having a bit of challenges with the video. However, her audio is working. So we'll be able to hear her and we can see a picture of her on the screen. Thank you, Zoe.
Thank you, Ashton, for that lovely introduction. I am very excited to be here with you all today to share some of my insights and my experiences within my role as a first-year transitioning officer at the University of the Western Cape, and how we ultimately support, build, and sustain student success. I just want to make sure that I am audible.
Yes, the audio is excellent.
Perfect.
Thanks.
Great. Okay. I apologize. Technology will fail us sometimes. Okay, so working directly with students has allowed me to see the full picture, not just academically, but emotionally, socially, and even personally. And that perspective is what I want to share with you today. When we look at student success, I believe that one needs to look at our students' basic needs and whether those are first being met. And I'd like to refer to Maslow's hierarchy of needs, where it states that to reach self-actualization, one's basic needs first needs to be met before being able to climb the next level in order to strive towards self-actualization and, in our case, student success. Because a student cannot function optimally if they are hungry. A student cannot function optimally when they are worried about having a bed to sleep on at night. I remember that in the beginning of the year, these were some of the concerns that came to us, to our office. Many students were seeking for accommodation. Many students didn't have food. And so my point is to look at student success, we first need to see whether the basic needs are first being met. Nevertheless, I believe that student success is not accidental, it is created. And the core of the success is through belonging and connectedness. Student success is built through intentional connection, consistent support, and meaningful relationships. And there's a quote that reflects this beautifully, and it also happens to be within my poem. And I believe wholeheartedly in this African philosophy. When translated into English, it says, "People are people because of other people." And this quote reminds us that we become ourselves through connection, through community, and through the relationships that hold us. At university, this is especially true. Students grow, they learn, and they succeed not only because of their own individual effort, but because of the people who support them, the environments that welcome them, and the communities that make them feel they belong. When students feel they belong, they engage more deeply and they begin to develop agency, the confidence to take control of their own journey. In my mentoring circles, I meet students who carry very real stories, blended family dynamics, anxiety, loneliness, imposter syndrome, financial stress, pressure from home, and lack of role models. Many of them come to university believing they are not enough. But what I've seen consistently is that belonging changes everything. The moment they feel someone cares, someone listens, someone knows my name, someone understands their reality, something shifts and engagement begins to happen naturally. We try our very best to encourage students to engage, and that can look different to everyone. I apologize for the background noise. Engagement is more than just attending class or handing in work. Real engagement is a student speaking for the first time in a session or in a class, a student asking for help, a student staying after to talk, to gain clarity, a student showing up consistently, or even a student trusting the space, because engagement is relational. Students engage when the environment feels safe and supportive. And so what does a safe environment or supportive environment look like? In my capacity as a fighter or first year transitioning officer, I always try to throw in an icebreaker or a fun activity, because I always say that a student is not just a student alone. There are different components to who we are as human beings. And our academic component cannot just be the only thing that is fed. We have a social component, we have an emotional component, and we need to have a more balanced way. And that's why I always try to bring a little bit of fun into my sessions that I have with my students. And through doing this is creating a safe environment for them. And this is to help students take ownership of their journey. Agency is a student's ability to make decisions, take responsibility, ask questions, set goals, advocate for themselves, and become active in their learning. But agency can only happen once a student feels connected, capable, and confident enough to step forward. One of the most powerful tools I use to help students develop agency is self-reflection, and this is so important. Students cannot own their learning if they don't know who they are, what they value, what motivates them, and what matters to them. One of my favorite activities that I do with the students it's called the values activity. And the idea is I give them all a stack of cards, about 40 different cards, and each card has a different value on it. And I ask them to stack out each card, and as they stack it out, they look at each of the values that they are stacking out. This activity has a time constraint, so the instruction is that they select only 20 that they feel resonates most with them, but they have a minute to do so. They remove the access. I instruct them again to choose only 10 from the 20 they feel most important to them. Again, I ask them after they've selected their 10 to only select 5, and they have 10 seconds to do this. And, sorry. And they only have 10 seconds to do this. After they've selected 5, I go into reflection. I ask them why. Why have they selected these 5? What does this mean to you? And each one then has a turn in saying what this means to them. The timer forces them to choose with honesty. Under pressure, the truth floats to the top. So this activity helps students ask, why do I value this? How does this value show up in my life? How does it influence the choices I make at university? How do my values shape who I am becoming? And the best part is watching students gain clarity. This is who I am. This is why I make the choices I do. This is how I want to show up. So self-reflection becomes the entry point to agency, because once a student knows themselves, they begin to lead themselves. One of our most effective tools is our mentoring circles. And this is intentional in terms of creating a safe space, a place to share, reflect, grow, and connect. Students get to know one another and build real relationships. It becomes a community where students feel I am not alone. In these circles, we talk about first-year pressures, time management, mental health, imposter syndrome, personal goals, identity, motivations, and many other topics that matter deeply to students. Mentoring circles reduces isolation, and this directly improves engagement. When students feel when they feel held, they show up. When they feel seen, they speak up. And when they feel they belong, they try again. We also use platforms called FYE Talks, first year experience talks. And this is a space where students listen to short focus sessions, about an hour, and the themes include well-being, academic skills, academic honesty, resilience, belonging, and motivations. Students hear stories from their fellow peers. They hear stories from the fighters and even from staff. and they begin to realize that success is something they can shape actively. Our FYE talks empower students with knowledge, with strategies, normalizing difficult experiences, and building the confidence to make choices that support their success. This is where agency begins. Students understand how to take control of their learning and why it matters. Some of my personal reflections. In my time as a FITO, I've realized that students don't just need academic advice, they need human connection. Sometimes my sessions are not about content. They are about creating a space where students feel safe enough to breathe, share, or cry if they need to. Sometimes our students don't even need solutions. They just want somebody to hear them out. And in those moments, I'm reminded that student success begins with belonging. Engagement grows from safety and agency develops from confidence. Our role as FITOs is to hold that space. And in closing, through belonging, engagement, and agency, I've seen students transform, not because I fixed them, but because they found themselves in a community that reflects their worth back to them. Student success is not just grades, it is connection, it is identity, it is confidence, it is Ubuntu, people becoming themselves through other people. And with that, I say thank you. I really, really appreciate the platform and having shared some of my experiences.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much, Zoe, for that. Very insightful. Just check in time. Yeah. So I think now's a good time to just pause and get some questions and reflections before we jump into the breakout activity, if that's okay with people.
Ashton, just something else. Could we kindly, instead of having 6 groups, have 3? Because we see that some people has left already as well. So yes, we'll have 3 groups. And I know that I sent the names for the facilitators. They can also just wave and say hi, because you can see them on the screen. They will be the facilitators. So because there are 3 groups, we'll have maybe 2 facilitators in each group. So before, after the questions, we'll then go straight into Webber after which just give some clarity on the questions before we go into the breakout rooms, for people just to see it. And then we'll be shared in the breakout rooms.
Great, thank you. Yeah, so now's an opportunity for questions and comments. You can place them in the chat or raise your hand. The settings are that attendees can unmute themselves and show their faces. Any questions or comments? Yes, Siyaphumelela from Walter Sisulu. You're welcome to unmute yourself and ask.
Thank you, Ashton. Good morning, colleagues. It's still morning. Good morning, colleagues. For me, it's just a comment, really, from both what Prof and Zoe shared. That Zoe, this is excellent work. I loved your presentation. Absolutely beautiful. Thank you, Prof, as well for your presentation. For me, it's just a comment on how students need to feel included in their success. We find that most of the time we sit and we plan and we take decisions and, we come up with all sorts of plans and strategies for student success, but leaving the student behind. We leave the student out of, everything that we're planning and everything that we want to do. So I feel like the self-reflection tool allows that allows us to incorporate what the students think, allows us to have that student voice much more visible. So how do we include the student in their success? What does student success mean for the student? How do they interpret it for them? How does student success play out for the student, from the student, even from the perspective of the student? So I feel like this is a brilliant tool. Absolutely beautiful. Thank you so much.
I can go with that and just give a comment on that. And it's very interesting what you say. Thank you very much for the very, very insightful question in that sense. You see, students, it's very interesting that students don't progress from first year to their third or final year and have a continuous increase in all these elements that makes them good students. It seems not to be the case. It's very interesting to know that reading for a first year student, academic reading, is not the same for a third year student. The content changed and the challenges changed. Time management for a first year student is different to time management of a second or third year student, as if the third year students don't have a problem with time management. What interests me a lot is that all our campuses, we have pretty much a focus on first year experience and assisting first year students. It started to dawn onto me, the second year students are neglected. And the third year students are neglected. They just have to cope now. Because they deal with a total different, fresh, and new environment every year. Interesting comment. If you bring that factor, that into it, it becomes a labyrinth, a very challenging environment.
Yes, thank you very much for that, Prof. We've got a raised hand from Siyaphumelela from Wits.
Good morning, everybody, and thank you for the lovely two presentations we had earlier on. I think I just had another epiphany around the fact that Prof made a statement that students fail the academic curriculum because they failed the hidden curriculum. And I just wondered, are we at a place as institutions where we can actually have an honest conversation about what kind of pedagogy are we having and why our students are not able to access that and actually do something about it? Because it seems like continuously we sit at the same space, whereas we already know that the hidden curriculum is an issue, but it just seems like we are so rigid we've created this DNA that we don't want to bend, that we don't want to change, even though we know that there are problems there. So it's just one of those moments where I'm thinking we have the same problems everywhere, and we just keep on coming back to the same space over and over again because it seems like nobody's willing to change. Just a comment. Thank you.
Maybe Zoe should also come in and give an answer to that. I'd like to hear her also comments as being a student on this discussion.
Sorry, ma'am, if you could just rephrase it a bit so I can understand it a bit better.
I think it's very true. I think the systems we work in becomes the directive, or may I call it, we are caught up in systems. One of the things that we often find with students is that they complain about lecturers, and they say the lecturers don't just read from the book, whatever it may be. And that is not only here in South Africa, it's all over the world. There are poor lecturers everywhere in the world. I have never heard of any lecturer that's been fired anywhere in the world at any university because he's reading from the book only. Students won't get lecturers fired. But part of the development of students, and this is where we come in, is what do you do when you have a bad or a poor lecturer who doesn't know how to properly lecture? He's a subject specialist, but he's not necessarily a pedagogical expert on lecturing. So we have to prepare our students how to cope with that. Sometimes it simply means you have to put in more than the lecturer sometimes to ask him a question in a class. So it's very interesting that we focus. It seems to be it's a discussion that's all running in circles sometimes. I don't think so. I think we are getting somewhere. I think when we talk about self-reflection, we talk about not student voice, but I'm talking about looking into the mirror. It's my voice. And then we're getting somewhere. And this is what Zoe was actually referring to. That's why she is she flourishes in this environment where you become somebody. Let's see if there are other questions.
Thanks, Elizabeth. I see your hand is up.
Thank you. I'm with Constance. Over to you, Constance.
Okay. Thank you so much for the conversation. We are sorry we joined late because we were traveling, but I would like to follow on the comments raised by the two previous speakers. And my concern is that we are probably sitting in the same place where we are having the same conversations around student engagement and the challenges that go with it. I think because maybe it might be a problem that only our university has, but I think our definition of student success centers around people in support positions and does not include people who teach. It doesn't include the same content experts who we said, as per a previous speaker, might not necessarily have the pedagogical skills. So we sit in a place where, as academic advisors or others in support positions, we are supposed to create an environment of success. But if that is not happening within the classroom spaces, I think we will continue having these conversations again and again and again, because the people who have the students or who sit with students for the longest time are not involved in this conversation. So I think we almost need to rethink our idea of what student success is. Is it just the support that is provided, or is it fundamentally the whole experience that a student has when they get into the classroom? Are we do we have welcoming pedagogy? Do we have pedagogy that acknowledges the source, the background of our students? Do we are we welcoming in terms of the way we teach? Are we acknowledging their are we creating the social connections that they need? So I don't think it should be just an add-on, but it should be the whole university environment. And I think as long as teaching and learning are not included in these conversations, those that are directly involved in teaching and learning, the conversations that we are having are almost meaningless. Well, they are not fruitful. Thank you.
Thanks, Colette.
Thanks. Mm.
You raised
Thanks
a very
very much.
important, very important point. Very important point. I think the part of the problem is that universities are built or put together with faculties. Teaching and learning is not a faculty. And that's exactly the point you are making. We are an add-on. And we don't have this, may I call it, so-called faculty status that you refer to say, yes, we are part of the mainstream. And it's very interesting. I cannot agree more with you.
Thanks, Prof. Zoe, I see your hand is up.
Yes, I'd like to answer the question. I just needed some clarity around. Just from my opinion, I do think as much as we expect our students to reflect, I think that our lecturers can also, do that as well. And I will make an example with one of the lecturers when I was in my undergrad. She would send out evaluation forms to us, and who better to receive feedback from than from the people who you are, teaching, just for us to reflect on what worked, what was our opinion on the way that she was. And she found that many of the students found that she came forth very what was the word that they used? Sarcastic, and through that my lecturer was able to identify, okay, maybe I should shift in the way that I come forth, and so that's just my little 2 cents that I'd like to add.
Thanks very much. And maybe I can also just add, in terms of some of our Siyaphumelela practices that do include faculty and do tend to work quite well, is through your student success committees, having those integrated committees and including faculty voices within those so that they feel part of the student success work and the student success ecosystem. It does take quite a while to change the culture around that. And another practice that we have that again works quite well is those high impact modules that we tend to talk about a lot. Those modules with the high enrollment, low pass rates, and prevent students from graduating a minimum time. We're seeing some good work with some of the universities in terms of how they deal with those high impact modules, how they include the lecturers within it, and the students. So it's really, and again, I would possibly just caution about taking a deficit view, not blaming lecturers, not blaming students, in terms of the pass rates in those modules, but thinking how can they work together to improve the pass rates, what professional development is needed for the lecturers, what change in curriculum, what changes in pedagogy are needed to improve those pass rates in those high impact modules. So again, the underlying data around it to identify those modules and then look at the reasons why students are battling in those modules and even why lecturers might be battling in those modules. And by working together, we can improve those pass rates in the modules and get our students to graduate in minimum time. And I think maybe that's the overall message on a positive note, as well as by working together, collaborating with the lecturers and with the students. So we're now going to move into the breakaways. So if I can hand over to you, Prof, to explain our activity. Thanks.
Thank you very much for that, Ashton. I just have to make a comment on what, now where is it now? What Monique said about the data we're going to look at and that I presented. It's the Siyaphumelela high impact module students at UWC campus only. And just be cautious for that. We wanted to know how the Siyaphumelela students on our campus, what is their profile? Where should we intervene? What are the interventions needed at what time? And so forth. So this is the data that is available. It's not Siyaphumelela students in general. It is the high impact module Siyaphumelela students on our campus, UWC campus only. So for the group discussions, it's all about, you will have the, and I hope, Ashton, they're going to get these slides to discuss in the 3 groups. I've prepared 6 groups. Maybe there's going to be 3, but that means you have to do 2 slides each. For group 1, for instance, it is this profile. The 2 slides are the same for everybody. It is the slide on the top left, which is the profile of the students. That's the general profile. The slide on the right is the slide that gives us a priority for impact. But the slide on the left bottom will be the element or the domain, one of the domain results with each of these elements. And you could see there where they are no problem, lesser or bigger problem, and so forth. So the question to discuss is, a student is not a student, is not a student. Because what we have here is a student is a student is a student. It's those, in this case, 6 domains with 22 elements. But there's a student behind this graph. In this case, it's the high performance module Siyaphumelela students that was extracted from the data. It could have been the science students. It could have been the education students or the first year students only. So my question for us to discuss is, if you look at these 3 graphs, and the group 1 would look at the communication, would look at study skills and study skills probably, the 2 of them. What is the student behind it? So give your interpretation of the average student behind these graphs. What do you think would be the best intervention strategy to improve these students' study skills? We know they have time management problems. But where does it also reflect on the right-hand side? In which of the other elements does it also? It could reflect on learning styles. It could reflect in study methods. It could reflect in personal health, not having enough time, not having the correct friendships. Because my friends, one of the statements in the instrument is I have friends on campus with whom I could share my academic goals or academic content, discuss the academic content. These are important elements, but we were all talking about this thing of there's an individual behind the students, behind these graphs. So the groups will get, group 1 will, if I'm not going to manage that, sorry, I hope you, Ashton, you know how to do it. Group 1 will get this one and this one. And tell us, what do you see of this animal behind these graphs? Group 2 will see this critical thinking within this environment and creative thinking, as well as leading self-esteem. Something is seriously wrong. And group 3 will do the planning for your studies. Do they know where they're off to? Do they really see? I can see I've got a problem here, but they see a personal purpose of my future and career planning is not so well in place. I have to study it. Financial management, not going to take me there. And then in the end, this one. So this is the idea, that we do the breakaway in these different groups. And I hope, Ashton, as the new operator of Teams, Microsoft Teams, that you'll be able to supply each group with the slides. I leave me in your confident hands.
I've pasted the link to the slides in the chat. It is sitting on SharePoint and saved as a PDF. So everybody should be able to access the slides. And then I'm going to ask Elias to move us into the groups. Before we go, can you just let us know how long we have? We come back at 12, isn't it? Yes.
We've got 30 minutes, isn't it? I think we started a bit late now with this, but we've got 30 minutes. So is 10 past 12 fine? Ashton, for us to come back?
Yes, I think it is, yeah.
But I also think, just for clarity, for us to know that if we're going to be in 3 groups, so if you're in group 1, you look at group 1 slide only. Because given the time, I don't think in the 30 minutes we can look at all of the information. So if we in group 1, you look at the slide for group 1. Group 2 will look at the slide for group 2 and group 3.
Thank you very much. Elias, if you can open the rooms for us, please.
Okay.
Okay, great. Who'll be facilitating the feedback? Is it you, Monique, or Prof?
It's fine, you can go ahead. I think what I'm just going to do now is, because there were 3 rooms, we'll ask each room to give their feedback. And I think because of our time, we'll still have some time for engagement at the end if there's any last thoughts or reflections. So we will start with room 1. And if anyone else have questions, they can please pop it in the chat.
Does that mean I go, Monique?
Yes, you can go ahead.
Great. Hi, everyone. My name is Atingo Sinzala from the University of Cape Town. Please, if you are to have kids, do not name them with the letter A. They will be abused to present in the group. They will be volunteered like I was, because my name starts with A. I just want to thank my group first for the great interaction we had. Look, in terms of our feedback that we had, the average student for us was particularly a student who was struggling with financial struggles, time management. And we found that for this average student, these 2 particular struggles lead to other struggles that they are going to have. They're going to lack in academic communication. They're going to lack in self-esteem. They're going to lack in other things, because these particular issues are sort of like lacking already in them. So that's the average student that we sort of like identified, and that the lack of finances particularly will determine the success of this average student. And that if this need is not met, this financial need is not met, other interventions will unfortunately fall by the wayside. They will fall short in terms of the impact they're supposed or planned to have, due to the fact that a student is hungry, a student doesn't have money, they might even not have a place to stay, and so that affects everything else that we will have as an academic intervention for them. And then there also the other data point that we're getting from that, or rather what we discussed, was obviously language barrier being a challenge as well. So there becomes a need or an issue, or rather an issue that develops where whether a student is a first generation student is coming to the city for the first time, and this is just all new for them, it then deals with their confidence and their self-esteem, because there's a way in which they cannot communicate themselves, and it's a barrier. It's the language barrier that we would identify for that average student. And then the other thing would be also interacting with the resources. It needs the student to have the confidence to talk and to communicate. But then if you identify these as challenges, as I have, then the student will rarely seek for help to tutors, to lecturers, or any kind of intervention that is in place. And then the other part that we discussed was the student will feel like they don't have time, or they don't have enough time. And this could be because they're arriving in this environment for the first time and the academic pressure is too much. Maybe the student has to go get a job because they have financial needs. By the time they try to get back to their academics, everything else they're already behind with everything else, and they can't catch up. They can't reach out to support because they're going to be caught that, hey, you've not attended lectures, you've not been doing this or submitting things on time. So those were some of the discussions. I'm very happy for my colleagues to enter into here. Then some of the interventions that we discussed, we didn't have enough time for that, but we did discuss that offering, or rather directing students to the fact that there are support resources like writing centers for them. This would help the student on their journey of academic progress. And then also in terms of enabling them to know that it's okay to reach out to your tutors, it's okay to reach out to your lecturers, and you can speak and ask for support from them as well. And then one of the thoughts that I had, but didn't have time to sort of like share in the group, is also having peer review workshops where students between themselves can be able to review their own work, and they can be able to build their stamina or the confidence to share their work with others, and also be able to be vulnerable enough in those kind of settings to reach out to other people and share what is a lack for them, and also improve at the same time. That is a reflection from our group. I'm very happy if I missed anything for my group to speak on that.
If no one would like to share, we can go ahead with group 2. So room 2 can share now. Thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you. Thank
Hi,
you, colleagues.
Okay, is that Nelisa?
No, you can go. You can go on. Go get it. Sorry for that.
Oh no, I was just saying that Nelisa will discuss everything that we've discussed in our group. Yeah.
Thank you, colleague Koketsa. Good afternoon, colleagues. My name is Nelly Swasikonyela from your city. I'm sorry my camera is not working, hence I am not showing my face. But Atin Kosi can confirm that I do exist in Celeste. My colleagues from your city. Yes. What we have, I'm coming from UCT, but I'm going to focus mainly on the Faculty of Humanities because that's where I'm based. So the intervention that we talked to when it comes to student support, time management, personal issues, academic support, we've got a mentorship program in the Faculty of Humanities that is working very well in terms of supporting students who are in need. They talk about, or they deal with time management issues, personal issues, academic support. And yeah, so when our students need help when it comes to time management, our mentorship team is trained extensively when it comes to such. They do have documents that will help students to draw up their personal timetable or schedules, and the mentors will sit down with the students and they have the conversation. What courses are you registered for? How is your life after hours? During the day, what do you do? And then they help the students to come up with a schedule that will not conflict their academic studies during the day or in the evenings. And once the student is happy with that schedule, and then the LIFO should go on. And also when the students have personal issues, we do not deal with personal issues in our mentorship program. We refer our students. Firstly, we try to check what could be the problem. If it's something that is deep, that needs professional help, we have a department that is called Student Wellness Services. We refer our students there. What we'll normally do, we will encourage students first to set up an appointment with them. If maybe they are struggling, I then, as a student engagement manager, I will try to assist and sort of speak directly with the student wellness to see if they're possible to see the student urgently. And then we leave it there because, I mean, that will be private conversation between the student and student wellness. And students who need academic support, our mentorship, again, is trained when it comes to that. They'll check what the student is studying, what exactly the student is suffering from. If maybe it's something that has to do with writing and understanding how to write academically, we do have a writing center at UWC that is so supportive, especially to our students from first year to postgraduate studies. Then students go there, they make appointment, and then we do not accompany students there. We just show them the details and how to book on the system, and also encourage them to go and see the colleagues there. And the writing center will sit down, obviously, with the student to check what is needed to be done, how they can assist them, and then the student will attend a few courses, sessions with our writing center until they've got confidence in writing. And I'm going to go back to what Atenkosi mentioned. Some of these problems come through, or they become visible because of confidence and the school students went through prior coming to university. Because sometimes you compare the students that you deal with, and sometimes it's not really a problem, but it's a matter of confidence on how students they address or they present themselves to their academics, to the colleagues, to their peers as well. So also most of our courses, we've got tutoring, they've got tutors, and some of the tutoring sessions are compulsory. So the mentorship, what we'll do, they'll just encourage students to make sure that they attend their tutors. And if students, maybe they're not aware how to get that, we link them with the course conveners and ensure that they do attend tutors, because some of the tutoring is, as I mentioned earlier on, is compulsory. Once you don't attend, there's a great possibility that you not make it for that particular course. And yeah, colleagues, if I've missed something, say so, please. So our mentorship is a strong project. They do get training once a year. I think around September, August, they go for intensive training by our colleague, which is called Student Development Officer, where they train them on all these different topics. And then beginning of the year, they do a brush-up course just to make sure that they understand exactly what needs to be done. So each mentor for us has around 10 to 12 mentees. And they look after them for the entire year. And then at the end of the year, the mentors, throughout the year, actually, the mentors, they've got coordinators where they report to if there are issues that they could not assist, or they need to do a debriefing. So the coordinators, they look after the mentors just to ensure that they get their cups are filled up throughout the year. Thank you so much, colleagues.
Thank you. So our group is just looking at group 2 study skills. The average of this learner over here, our interpretation of the study skills is that the learner scored above average across all 3 elements, which is across learning styles, memory, and study method. So obviously these support services would tie into improving across all 3 of these elements. I'm not sure whether our colleague from VUT just wants to add about the workshops that they do offer in their institution. If not, that's okay, considering time and permitting time for the next group to go as well. Kind of putting you on the spot here if you want to, because I think you guys also have some good resources available to students.
Okay. Y- Good afternoon to everyone. My name is Tiseto from VUT. Yeah, we do have or offer different intervention or support to student based on different needs. Because we've got multiple units. So we do have African languages where we focus on offering subtitles in terms of the course content that the lecturer would have provided or will be offering to student. And then we create glossaries for difficult sort of terms, but in mainly currently focusing in Sesotho and Sepedi. So we have those glossaries, and we also develop like your dictionaries also in the African, those two African languages. Then if a lecturer is offering a class online and would like also some translation during the course, and then those services are also made available for those students. And they also do like your proofreading of student assignments. Yes, then we have your academic advising where they offer multiple workshop, you name it, your time management, your financial management, how to handle stress, work under pressure, and so forth. And then we've got also your digital literacies, where we focus on offering digital literacy workshops. And we also recently even looked at launching the offering your Microsoft professional certificate for students if they would like to be professionally certified before they even exit the institution, because some of these certifications they are needed when they sort of also embark into the job hunting journey. So when you look at some of the spec and skills needed, so you find that some they're not necessarily employable, or they don't um, have that advantage, because they still do not have those professional certificates that they are needed in their career path, especially those that are coming from your applied and computer science faculty. If you are doing like IT, most companies they don't necessarily focus on the full qualification itself, but they need much more practical and experienced students, and their requirements mainly focus on some of those certifications from different professional bodies. So we are trying to also incorporate some of those certifications so that the students are given an opportunity to uh, participate and complete them while they are still within the institution. Yeah, we do have also your academic writing. So your academic writing, they focus on your also digital literacies. They offer your one-on-one consultations in terms of proofreading the assignments. If student they did understand the question or the assignment given in hand, and if not, if most of them they seem to be consulting, then the engagement further goes to even the lecturer to try to find out as to um how they have drafted the questions. Seems not to be understandable by most of the questions, and this is an advice or a staff development initiative also that can be offered to staff in terms of how to question and write their questions in such a way that it becomes simplified for students to understand and complete the assignment. And your counseling is, we do have counseling for your mental health, for many issues that some they are not even comfortable to raise them out, but some they do consult and attend the counseling. Some they are being referred by their academics once they have sort of identified a particular program in their problem in the class, and then they will make a referral for the student to go and see the counselor, or to invite the counselors in their classes just to give a general talk, and then make that awareness again to students that these services are there, and once you are faced or have such problems, then you are more than welcome to come and see us, so that at least they provide that welcoming environment for the student, that not only people that have certain stigma or problems can go and see the counselors. You can just also even go there if you just feel that you are losing yourself, but you don't know what exactly is the problem, and you can't really identify it. Just to go and share and talk to someone, and then they will offer you assistance and an ear to listen to your problems, and some guidelines after that. So yeah, as from VUT, that's what I can think of now. But yeah, we have different units offering different student support for different needs. And yes, thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing that. That was very insightful. Can we please have the last group presenting? And thank you, David, for recommending the colleague in your group to present. He said so.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. I am Marika, and I'm from the University of Cape Town. So hello, Neliswa, and hello, Atinkosi. It seems like we are the speakers. Maybe we are just a very, loud group from UCT. It's really awesome to see our university represented here, especially by my esteemed colleagues, Atinkosi, Neliswa, and Celeste here with me as well. So we were looking at academic thinking skills, looking at creative and critical skills, and what is necessarily there. And our immediate thoughts went back to looking at things that, that cause problems with our critical thinking. So what intervenes before we're actually even able to engage with this? So looking at food and accommodation security, do we have that? And how does that affect our critical thinking? So students are having to think outside of the box and creatively about getting food and accommodation, as Atinkosi mentioned earlier, might having to get a job which interferes with their academic success. We also spoke about our critical reading and critical thinking, and are we able to, do we have the academic communication skills to do this? And as everybody else has mentioned, language skills and language barriers, which affects our confidence and self-esteem. So do we have the jargon that is necessary to be successful within the academic context? And do we have the resources that build these skills for our students? We also spoke about digital literacy, and what do our students come into university with? Do some of them have digital skills? Do some of them have not, or do not have digital skills? And how do we best support them? And then we spoke about a whole bunch of intervention skills that are available at various universities, being digital literacy skills in their first year, building on these critical thinking skills in their first year, and also having within UCT, we have tutorials that are presented in multiple languages, as an example, to help build better language acquisition and being able to critically think in your mother tongue, which obviously makes a very big difference when you are learning all this new jargon and all this information. Celeste, would you like to build or think onto anyone else in our group?
I just think that unfortunately we didn't have much opportunity to really speak about a specific intervention. Yeah. But I think the conclusion that our group came to is that a holistic approach is necessary to truly deal with what has been identified here. But as all the groups before has said as well, we need to look at where things are interweave and how do we address specific skills, but not ignoring the whole. So yeah, my contribution. Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing. I think now we've got some time for more questions or engagements, because I know that Prof. Skitter wanted to just consolidate everything, because he wanted to conclude the session. But if there's any other questions, we can ask questions now before we conclude the session. Are we still within the time frame, Ashton?
Yes, we are.
So, Prof, you're up next.
Thank you, Monique. Very insightful. But what I heard now reconfirmed that the people in this room today are part of a group that supports students in so many ways. Part of the drive to make available all the facilities and so forth for students to be successful. I came to the conclusion whilst we've had the discussions that I think students are inundated with support. If I listen to what Marika said, what Stegu said, if I listen to what Neliswa said, I ask myself, if this is all available, where would students find the time to attend all the support that's available? And it seems to be that's part of the problem. We paint with this broad brush, only a few students pitch up, and we have to motivate why we give this support and that support, and we successfully do that. But if I listen to some of the students when we have focus group discussions, they tell me, sir, I don't have time to attend this workshop. I have a full day lecture schedule. Tonight I have to study, or I have to travel home and get sleep and rest and all these things that goes with that. So somewhere we're doing something very right. But at the very same time, we probably do sometimes some things very wrong. And I'm trying to make sense out of this. I need your inputs on this. If you all listen to what we were saying now, please, how should we interpret what we offer to students? Then students don't come to the party. Part of it could be that we educate students from university, and especially the admin departments. We educate students or train students or expose them to be, they are our clients. It's all wrong. They are partners in this journey. If you don't come to the party, we won't make progress. What Tseko said, I was thinking for myself, she's saying that some of the student support is compulsory. I think that could work. Probably in some or in most cases. I think it's right. Making all student assistance available voluntary is not going to get the student there that's in need of it. Because that student never has time for it. And if you look at time management, I interpret it, and I'd like to hear the comments from the floor now. I interpret time management problems of students as a symptom. It's not a cause. It's a symptom of something else. It's a symptom of I don't know what I'm here for. It's a symptom of I don't care. I don't have to take responsibility. It's a symptom of a lot of things. It's not a cause. And if you start to look at time management as a symptom, I think we get behind the beat of the act. That's my contribution at this stage. Thank you.
Marika had a hand raised.
Hi. Let me just put my camera on. I just wanted to say, it just sparked in me. We have been busy speaking about notional hours at our university and really looking at what we expect from a student when they are, you know, first year course versus a second year course. How much time do we expect a student to give? And if you look at a student's week, if we look at the notional hours and the amount of courses they take, we expect a 40-hour work week from these students. So from Monday to Friday, from 8 till 5 every day, we expect them to spend their time on academics, which leaves them with no time for support, no time to engage with their work and really go for support if they need it. How am I supposed to make time for my mental health if I'm expected to be within my academic world from 8 to 5? Where must must come outside of my 8 to 5. My friends and my family and my responsibilities must all fall outside 8 to 5. And my academics must be from 8 to 5. But where's my mental health? Where's finding myself in this world? Where is all of that? Where's the space for that? Must it happen in lunchtime when I'm supposed to go to Res to eat my food? But at the same time, this is when these programs are made available to me. So for lunchtime, 1 to 2 45-minute session on time management, I'd rather go eat. And just to kind of keep that in the back of our minds. Thank you.
Prof, before I give Atinikosa some time, I could see you wanted to say something about your student that is 24
No, I don't want to say something.
hours.
I just confirm that what I hear is so up my alley. It's absolutely true what she's.
And I think that is just the realities of students. And like you mentioned, would I then want to spend my lunch hour attending another something? Even though it's not academics, for a student is another add-on. And I would rather go and enjoy myself or take a walk. So thank you for sharing that. Atinikosi, you would like to share?
Hi, colleagues, and thanks again, Prof, for having to share some of that. I think if there was enough money to do and explore any kind of project within the university space, I think it would be quite interesting if we actually, maybe at some point, even during break of the university, we funded some of our lecturers to actually go and see the realities that students actually come from. Imagine just getting a bus, Prof, traveling to the deeper parts of KZN and to the urban parts of KZN, EC, wherever, just to actually see. And I challenged my lecturers at some point. I was like, in actual fact, if you'd see their reality, you'd never put some wordings or technical terms in a particular test or exam, or you'd actually consider changing to another textbook. Because if a child has never interacted, let's say just for the sake of an example, an aeroplane, they don't even know that, they've never gotten there, but in an exam question, they might ask something about the spring pressure of them having to sit down in a chair and the distance between like people who are sitting in an aeroplane, just as an example, but they've never really interacted with those realities. And I think for me, it speaks to the part of preparedness. And I'm glad that we actually spoke about this in our group, right? In terms of the preparedness of students for the university space. I think these conversations, as we develop all these tools, right, in different higher education institutions, are going to lead us to the important question of, does the university itself, in its traditional model sense, have the capacity and the willpower to adapt itself to the current realities of students? Is it prepared to do that? So less about, is the student prepared for the traditional university context, but is the university understanding of its own assumptions about the learning styles, psychological, psychosocial context and realities of these very same students? Because they keep changing every year. They are different every 10 years and every 20 years. But the question is the university changing and adapting to the changing nature of these so-called partners in the space of higher education?
Thank you for sharing your thoughts. So we have Siyaphumelela next, and then we'll give Dr. Morolong a chance, and then Zoe will go next. So Siyaphumelela.
Thanks, Monique. So we had a similar conversation last week with our DVC learning and teaching. And we were at a strategic plan for our Directorate of Learning and Teaching. And so one of the conversations that we had was on the issue of what Atenkosi has touched on, of preparedness. But also we tend to say the Department of Basic Education has not prepared our students enough for the higher education institutions. And then we now have to take another look at to say how prepared are we as universities for the students that we get, for the students that come from the Department of Basic Education. And then we have to then look at impact, right? So what kind of impact do we envisage from all these interventions and all these programs that we have in place? What kind of impact do we want to ultimately achieve? And how well capacitated are we as the universities to ensure, when I say as the universities, taking into consideration the support programs, taking into consideration the faculty as well, how prepared are we to collaborate and come together to say, this is the student that we have, these are the interventions that we could possibly put in place to assist this kind of student, to support this kind of student with this end goal, with this ultimate impact that we wish to achieve. How do we then look at ourselves as the support programs? How do we look at ourselves as the faculty to say, we may be doing a lot, but are we doing the right thing? There's a lot that we're doing, but is it exactly working towards the impact that we want to see ultimately at the end of the day? Is it what the student needs? Is it what the student is supposed to have? Ultimately, we have, as universities, we have graduate attributes that we would want our students, the graduate, to come out with from the higher education institution, right? So these support programs and what we're doing in the faculty, do they work towards us achieving what we ultimately want to do? Maybe these are conversations that we would then need to have as institutions to say, are we doing it? We're doing a whole lot, but is this whole lot that we're doing what is necessary? Is it necessary? Is it what the student needs? Which I believe will also then take us back to nothing for the student without the student, right? Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much, Siyaphumelela, for sharing. Before we give the opportunity to the next speaker, and I hear you saying that, we need to look at the holistic being of the student, and that student success is everyone's business. And I think that is so true. And like you mentioned, are we doing the right things? Because we are doing so much. And when it comes to collaboration, are we taking into consideration context, the type of student that we have, and the need of the student? So thank you for sharing that. Next up will be Dr. Morolong.
Thank you very much, colleagues, to me from Mandela University, formerly from Central University of Bloemfontein, Central University of Technology, Bloemfontein. I've only been here for a month, but I am very passionate about student engagement. Colleagues, the previous speakers literally took words out of my mouth, and at one point I wanted to lower my hand, but I thought it best I am here. Let me make it this point. When in a nutshell, when I joined the CUT in 2011, working in curriculum development, our deputy director then, Miss Mester Riang Bowen, asked one fundamental question: are we ready for the modern student? And the previous speaker nailed, all the previous speakers nailed it on the head. Prof spoke of time management. If I were to make that example, Atemkosi spoke of the realities. Are we as universities ready for the student of the current day? Are we still a university where what you call in the traditional sense, where we transmit knowledge and we don't involve the students? For instance, we can look at our learning, teaching and learning interactions. If I were to make an example, modern students are always on their mobile devices. Why don't we come up with ways that we can, integrate the use of their mobile devices into the learning and teaching space? Yes, we are doing a lot. There's no question about that. There's a plethora of student support services out there. But are we as university working smart? Are we maximizing that? Thank you so much. Over to you, Chair.
Thank you so much for sharing that. And congratulations on your new post. What a time to start just before the holidays.
Thank you so much.
Zoe, we have you sharing next.
Thank you. I just would like to shed some light on us as students and our preconceived judgments and how it plays a major but also invisible role in shaping the way students interact and how we think critically, especially in the diverse and multilingual and socio-economically varied context. And these judgments arise from our perspectives, and we all have different perspectives based on our past experiences and how we internalize beliefs and biases and assumptions, and that students bring with them into the university environment, and that can limit us as students in our ability to ask or to think critically, because that requires openness. Could there be another explanation or viewpoint? But preconceived judgments create a mental shortcut. I already know what this means, or people like this always behave this way, or this topic is irrelevant. This lecturer is too strict, I won't do well. And this shuts down exploration and reduces curiosity. And again, it speaks to what Mr. Athon-Kosi, I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly, about the university's preparedness and how do we break down these preconceived judgments, and it impacts the way we interact in groups as well. we're having the view of English person is smarter, and so it goes back to self concept and so I just thought, I hope what I'm saying is making sense. I just thought I'd add that as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Zoe, for sharing. And I think after our engagements now, I think when we're done here, we're going back and we're going to reflect. And, also thinking that there's still more we need to do. But by more, we're talking about collaboration. How do universities ensure that we don't work in silos, that we work together for the greater good of the student to ensure student success? And that everyone is mindful that student success is everyone's business and not certain divisions. And I think after our conversation, you might go back and think and reflect. And I hope this session was thought-provoking. So when you get back to your institutions, whether you are still doing strat planning for next year or whether it's happening in next year for you, that what we discussed here today, that you use some of this and reflect on what has been discussed. I would like to hand over to Ashton, if there is no one else who would like to share. Ashton, are you there?
Yes, I'm just seeing if anybody else wants to comment. No. Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much to UWC. Thank you very much to Zoe. Thank you very much to everybody who stayed on for this workshop. I think it's been a really informative workshop, and in particular, the discussion around it. I think the discussion is the important part, and just being able to share between the different institutions and a lot of the challenges that we face, we can see they are quite similar. And thanks very much to Zoe as well for providing the student voice and the student perspective. We really want to encourage having that a lot more in the future with our service workshops. So this has been a really good pilot in terms of using teams as well as including the student voice a bit more intentionally. So, but a huge thank you. Thank you very much to Profs Devet and Monique and the whole team at UWC who's been able to pull this together. Thank you for giving up your time. We really appreciate it. So a huge thank you, everybody. And yeah, I hope you have a wonderful festive period. Please make sure you have a good rest, because as we can see, we've got a very challenging 2026 ahead of us. So we have to make sure we're fully rested to be able to tackle the challenges ahead. A huge thank you. Thanks very much, everybody.
And thank you to you, Ashton.
Thanks, Ashton.
Thank you, colleagues. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks. Bye.
Okay,
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.